My favorite thing about Collin was always that he helped me so much and was my helper boy.
Matter of public record, even though the full details of why the judge ruled that way have never been made public. From that point forward, Collin and Hannah built their lives primarily with their father, while their 6 other siblings, twins Maddie and Kara along with sextuplets Alexis, Aiden, Joel, and Leah, remained with Kate. That split has never really healed, and it has become one of the most heartbreaking parts of Collin's story. He has spoken openly, including on social media, about feeling almost like a stranger to most of his own siblings, despite sharing not just a childhood but, in the case of the sextuplets, the exact same birth. Maddie, one of the older twins, has publicly defended their mother and said she has no interest in reconciling with Collin, making clear she stands firmly on Kate's side of the family divide. For Collin, that has meant navigating adulthood with almost no relationship with 6 of his 7 siblings, aside from Hannah, who has tried to maintain some connection with both parents while remaining close with Collin. Collin's relationship with his father's now wife has also become part of his public narrative. He has spoken warmly about the support he found in his father's household after leaving the facility, describing it as the first time he felt genuinely cared for without conditions attached. That contrast between the household he left and the one he found afterward is a theme that runs through nearly everything he has said publicly over the past few years. More recently, the conflict has spilled directly onto social media, in real time, as the memoir's release date approaches. In late June, Collin shared a since-expired Instagram story in which he claimed his mother had once written in a diary that she prayed for the strength not to hit him, referencing a time when he says he was only 2 years old. He said sharing details like this is part of why using his voice matters so much to him now. Kate, for her part, has not issued a single detailed public statement responding point by point to the memoir. Instead, she has addressed the situation piecemeal, through comments on her own TikTok videos, where she has called the allegations against her fabrications and, at one point, described them as ridiculous. She has also said she has limited or blocked certain comments about Collin on her page, stating that her account is meant to reflect what she calls kindness, love, and honesty, not what she referred to as made-up accusations. One particularly interesting wrinkle is the legal side of all this. Fans have asked Kate directly online why she has not sued Collin for defamation if she believes his claims are false. Her answer, posted in her own comment section, was that the rules are different for public figures, and that proving malice in a defamation case involving a public figure is extremely difficult. She has said she consulted an attorney about this years ago when other people were making claims she considered untrue, and was told the courts generally will not side with a public figure in that situation. It is a legally accurate point, generally speaking, and it also means the dispute between mother and son is likely to stay exactly where it is right now, playing out in public opinion rather than in a courtroom. Meanwhile, according to entertainment outlets citing people close to the situation, Kate is reportedly eager to get an early look at the manuscript before it is officially published, wanting the chance to prepare her response before the book reaches shelves. Sources describe her as concerned about how she will be portrayed, feeling as though public opinion has already started forming against her before anyone outside the publishing house has actually read the full account. Let's talk for a moment about the Marine Corps chapter of this story, because it adds another layer to the ongoing back and forth between Collin and his mother. Collin enlisted in 2023, and for a while it looked like he had found a clear, structured path forward, something entirely separate from the reality TV world he grew up in. But he was later dismissed, with the reasoning cited as a failure to disclose parts of his pre-enlistment history. What makes the timing notable is that his dismissal came just one day after Kate made a public statement referencing what she described as his multiple psychiatric diagnoses. Collin has said he believes that statement directly contributed to his discharge, essentially arguing that his mother's public comments cost him his military career. Kate's attorney has pushed back on that interpretation, telling reporters that while her comments may have prompted a closer look at his history, it would be inaccurate to say she was solely responsible for the outcome. It is a small example of a much bigger pattern that runs through this entire saga, where nearly every development seems to get filtered through 2 completely different narratives depending on which side of the family is telling it. It is also worth noting how this dispute has played out almost entirely online rather than through traditional interviews or press conferences, which says something about how celebrity conflicts unfold differently today than they did when the original show was airing. Back in 2009, When Jon and Kate's marriage fell apart in front of the cameras, the divorce played out through tabloids, paparazzi photos, and carefully managed press statements. Today, both Kate and Collin are litigating their relationship in real time through TikTok comment sections and Instagram stories, which means fans are watching the conflict unfold almost as it happens, screenshot by screenshot, rather than waiting for a magazine cover or a sit-down interview. That shift has made the story feel more immediate and, for many long-time viewers, more uncomfortable to watch, because there is no editing process softening any of it. A little boy is standing in a basement, and upstairs, millions of people are watching his family laugh on television. That is the image at the center of one of the most talked-about celebrity memoirs of the year, and it belongs to a man who spent his entire childhood as one-eighth of a TV phenomenon. His name is Collin Gosselin, and for the first time in his adult life, he is telling his own version of events, in his own words, on his own terms. If you grew up anywhere near television in the late 2000s, you probably remember the show. Jon and Kate Plus 8 turned a Pennsylvania couple and their twin daughters and sextuplets into one of the biggest reality franchises TLC ever produced. At its peak, the show pulled in close to 10 million viewers a week, and the Gosselins became a genuine cultural phenomenon, plastered across magazine covers, morning shows, and merchandise. To the outside world, it looked like organized chaos with a happy ending every episode. But according to Collin, one of the 6 sextuplets, the cameras only ever showed part of the story, and the part they left out is what he is finally putting into words. Collin, now 22 years old, announced this year that he is releasing a memoir titled In the Shadow of 8, Surviving the Reality of My Childhood, set to hit shelves in October. In a statement to Us Weekly, he explained that his life had always been broadcast to millions, but what was actually happening behind the scenes was never shown, and in his words, much of it was deliberately kept hidden. That single line is really the thesis of the entire book. For over a decade, the public got the edited version. Now Collin says he wants people to hear the version nobody signed off on. According to the publisher's synopsis for the memoir, the book will describe Collin being physically held down, being hidden away in what is described as a basement cell for years, and being placed on a heavy regimen of antipsychotic medication starting at age 11. Those are serious, specific claims, and it is important to say clearly that they are allegations from Collin's memoir and public statements, not findings from any court or investigation. His mother, Kate Gosselin, has firmly and repeatedly denied them. Still, the fact that a young man who grew up in front of the entire country is choosing to lay all of this out publicly, in his own book, under his own name, is already reshaping how people look back at a show many of us watched without a second thought. To understand why Collin says he became the target inside his own household, you have to go back to how the show itself functioned. Jon and Kate Plus 8 was not just a family being filmed, it was a business built entirely on that family's daily life. Every tantrum, every meltdown, every sweet sibling moment was potential content. When your household income depends on your children behaving a certain way on camera, child psychologists and family advocates have long warned that the pressure on kids in that environment can be enormous, and reality television as an industry has faced growing criticism over the years for operating with far fewer protections than scripted Hollywood productions, where child labor laws and trust fund requirements like California's Coogan law apply. Reality TV kids, technically, are not considered actors or employees in the same way, which has left a lot of gray area around how much protection they actually receive. Collin has said publicly, including in a 2023 interview for Vice's Dark Side of the 2000 series, that he felt singled out within the family long before things escalated. He has described feeling isolated from his siblings and treated differently than the others, and he has said the pressure of being on camera made an already difficult family dynamic even harder to navigate. This is where his account and his mother's account start to diverge sharply, and it is worth laying out both sides honestly. The turning point most people remember is 2016, when Collin suddenly disappeared from family photos and public appearances. At the time, Kate explained his absence by saying he had been placed in a specialized program to address behavioral needs. Collin's version, which he has repeated in interviews and now expands on in the memoir, is very different. He has alleged that he was sent away specifically so he would not be able to speak publicly about how he says he was being treated at home. In his own words from that 2023 interview, he said he believed he was sent some way so he would not be able to get the truth out. Kate has told a consistent and quite different story. In statements given to People magazine, she has said Collin received multiple psychiatric diagnoses over the years and that he was placed in a facility following what she describes as years of unsuccessful outpatient treatment after an emergency room evaluation connected to what she called one of his violent outbursts. She has said the decision was made for the safety of herself and his siblings as well as for Collin's own well-being. She has also said his behavior after leaving the facility remained difficult and at times frightening for the rest of the family, and she has described his account of events as coming from what she calls a distorted view of what actually happened. Collin spent roughly 2 years in that facility before his father, Jon Gosselin, successfully petitioned for custody. In December of 2018, a court granted Jon full legal and physical custody of Collin, and around the same time his sister Hannah made the same decision to leave their mother's household. That court outcome is the custody battle between Jon and Kate in the years following their 2009 split is also an important piece of context for understanding how the family ended up so fractured. Kate was originally awarded primary legal custody of all 8 children, while Jon was left with limited visitation and a significant child support obligation. Jon has said publicly that he spent well over $1 million on legal fees across more than a decade of court disputes, working through a long list of attorneys as he tried to remain part of his children's lives. That prolonged legal conflict set the tone for years of tension within the family, long before Collin's specific allegations became public. And it helps explain why the relationships among all 8 siblings look so different from one another today, ranging from Maddie and Kara's continued closeness with their mother to Collin and Hannah's decision to build their lives primarily around their father instead. It is worth stepping back for a second and thinking about why this story is resonating with so many people beyond just fans of the original show. Collin's memoir arrives at a moment when the entertainment industry is having a much broader conversation about children who grow up on camera, whether that is old-school cable reality shows or the newer wave of family vlogging content on platforms like YouTube and TikTok. Advocates for stronger protections for young people in the content industry, including public figures like Paris Hilton, have voiced support for Collin as he prepares to share his story, framing it as part of a larger push to give kids raised in front of an audience more legal protection than they currently have. Whatever you make of the specific allegations in Collin's book, that larger question about what happens to a child's privacy and well-being when their life becomes a product is clearly not going away anytime soon. As for where everyone stands today, the family is scattered both geographically and emotionally. Kate relocated to North Carolina years ago and has largely stepped back from the spotlight, working as a registered nurse away from cameras for much of that time. Jon has worked as a DJ and IT professional and remarried in 2025. The twins, Maddie and Kara, have kept relatively low profiles while finishing college and staying supportive of their mother. The youngest sextuplets who remained with Kate, Alexis, Aiden, Joel, and Leah, have largely stayed out of the public conflict. And Collin, after a brief stint in the Marine Corps that ended with his discharge in 2023, something he has said he blames partly on his mother's public comments about his mental health at the time, has now stepped fully into the role of author and advocate, preparing to tell a story that has been building, in one form or another, for almost a decade. Whatever side of this story people land on, one thing is clear. The tidy, laugh-track version of the Gosselin family that aired every week all those years ago was never the whole picture. And Collin Gosselin has made it his mission to make sure people finally hear the rest of it, directly from him, when his memoir arrives this October. Let us know in the comments what you think about this story, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next deep dive into the biggest stories on the internet.